Thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for what you do, which I'd like to talk about some this morning. One of the things you do is help things like the Moonshot really take off. In June, on June 29th, we had a summit here at Howard University that you all were front and center in. But more importantly, we had 7,000 people at 270 sites around the country, which you also were very instrumental in making a success. So I was thinking about your report, and especially this incredibly useful infographic. You know, a lot of infographics are trivial. You know, how many people use their cell phone to chop lettuce and things like that. This one is incredibly impactful. And as I looked through it, I thought, how can I put this for people who are not in cancer to really understand the experience of people who are in cancer? Because when we use the phrase, the patient journey, usually journey has a lot of drama associated with it. When I'm taking a family trip, I usually refer to it as a vacation, not a journey. And when people say, well, the destination is the journey, they usually mean a lot of bad stuff happened and you never got where you were going. Or the journey is the destination. So I was thinking about, what if cancer were Uber? Well, first, you don't even want to take the ride. They come in your house and take you and put you in the car. Secondly, they don't ask you where you want to go. They tell you you have a choice of 2 undisclosed locations. You can do fludarabine, cyclophosphamide, and Rituxan, or you can do ibrutinib. And you don't know what either of them is. And they say, well, that's too bad because you have to choose because that's where we're taking you. So you choose in the dark in the back seat. And then they say, well, before we get there, we have to drive around a while until we get authorization for you to go there. So you're driving around. And by the way, we have to make all these other intermediate stops, step therapy. So you're not even going where they told you were going to go. You're going to go to all these other places. And when you say, what's this going to cost me? They say, well, who are you? Because the price depends on who you are, not what it is. So if you're somebody who's well insured, the price is one thing. If you're somebody who's not so well insured, the price is another thing. If you're on Medicaid, the price is another thing. And if you're uninsured or you're in an exchange, it's a totally different thing. So now you're in the back of a car you don't want to be in, going to a place you don't want to go, going around all these other blocks on the way to get there, and you don't even know what the price is until they interview you, not about what you're buying. Then you finally get there, and they kick you out of the car, and they say, good luck getting home. We don't do that. We just do the first part. To many patients, to way too many patients, that's their experience of cancer. They're in the dark, they're going places they don't understand, they don't know what it's going to cost, they don't know what's going to happen when they get there, and they don't know how they're going to get home, home meaning back to their life. And that's why we are doing the Cancer Moonshot, and that's why we need groups like yours. Let me talk just a moment about the patient journey. And first, a lot of people want to use the word consumer for patients. Let me just say, consumers have choices. Patients often don't. They may have a therapy choice, and they may not have any therapy choices. But they didn't get there because they chose to be in that situation. So I'm not one of those people who views consumer as a good description of a cancer patient. A lot of people in Congress this week during the discussion of the Cures Act are treating patients like consumers and saying that we should not spend the money in the Cures Act, $1.8 billion, on the Moonshot research because they're upset that the pharmaceutical companies may get an easier path at the FDA and that the price of some drugs is too high. Yes, all of that may be true, but as a cancer patient myself, when I was diagnosed, I did not go on the website of Consumer Reports. That's for sure. So I think we do patients a disservice when we treat them as consumers because they have nowhere near the power that a consumer does. And patients have very different interests from consumer groups. I've learned this my entire government career. When I was on the transition team for Obama for the FDA in 2008, we had hearings. And one day all the patient groups came in. And they said, let us take more chances. Stop being so paternalistic. We're the ones who are facing terminal diseases with no good choices. We're the ones who should be choosing what risks we take. The next day, the consumer groups came in. Why are you letting patients take these risky choices? Why are you letting them in these clinical trials with drugs you don't know what the side effects might be? Why are you letting them do compassionate use with experimental drugs? That is a conflict that we're probably going to have for a long time. I am firmly on your side in that debate. And I think anybody who cares about cancer patients or any kinds of patients needs to truly understand the difference between patients and patients' needs and rights and consumers. The second thing is, it helps if we just refer to the patient journey as a personal journey, because it is extremely personal. And it is a journey. When we started the task force in March of this year, I was faced with the problem of dealing with 20 agencies that all have their own programs and their own lexicon and their own budgets and their own biases. And what the PowerPoints I was getting from the agencies were very typical bureaucratic PowerPoints in program language. So the very first meeting I asked them, start with a blank sheet of paper, and I want you to think about the patient's journey and how your agency touches the patient during that journey. I don't want to hear about FY17 program growth and all these other things. I want to know, do you touch people when they're trying to prevent cancer, when they're trying to detect cancer, when we're trying to diagnose their cancer, when we're trying to treat their cancer, when we're trying to pay for their cancer, or when they're trying to survive their cancer? Tell me that, and then tell me, how are you going to do it bigger, better, and faster? That's the question. That's the only question. It's not about this program over that program. It's about, where do you touch the people who are going through this journey, and how can you do a better job, faster, and better?